Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphan Last, aka Skylar Madison, and today I'm going to go talk about a sort of informal sort of way of understanding shape and form. And this is kind of what we're going to be doing here, okay? So, like, let's say you have a cylinder, okay? And so, picture this cylinder as if it is transparent and it is pointing at us. It's pointing towards us, and there we have it, okay? So we have a cylinder right there, all right? Let's go ahead and make it so that it's not transparent anymore. All right, excellent. So now we have just a regular cylinder right there. So let's say we wanted to draw, this is an actual exercise that I've kind of come up with somewhat recently on my Discord server. Basically, what the exercise is in order to understand shape and form, just practice drawing a smiley face on the round side of a cylinder. Just try to do that, okay? It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, okay? And if you're able to do that, if you're able to draw something like a cylinder convincingly as if it's on a round curved surface, then you've taken a few steps in advance. Now, the way that you would make sure that it's doing that correctly is, you could actually just kind of create some sketchy lines. So, we got this curvature going on here, right? Okay, so we just kind of continue that curvature going through, right? And then, out here somewhere out in the distance, you have a vanishing point out there, right? And so, maybe you might want to use that vanishing point and kind of draw out somewhat of a grid on there. If you want to put down a logo right here, you could actually use the grid method and actually just have your reference, just have a grid, and underneath that grid go ahead and have like your reference, whatever it may be. Let's say it's a star, and you could just kind of look at your reference versus what's going on right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3 right here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay, excellent. So basically, you would kind of copy what you see on the reference, but trying to also think about the curvature of this cylinder. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but these are little exercises that you can do in order to kind of try to understand it. Now, I'm not necessarily planning on drawing that with the grid method onto here, but it's just what I was doing earlier was just to illustrate a point, to kind of get you to understand sorts of little types of exercises that you could do to kind of warm up and make sure that you're working at your peak game and that you're understanding the actual shape and the form of an object. Okay. Now, an exercise like what I just showed you, in order to you don't even necessarily need the grid. You could actually use these red guidelines that I made earlier to help you just kind of freehand whatever it is that you want in there, and it'll feel as though it's curved. As long as you're paying attention to these red guidelines, you can actually make it look like there's something stuck onto the side of this cylinder. Okay, trying to draw a circle, a circular, like making it look like a sticker, like a Watchman sort of symbol that's been made into a sticker, as if it's been stuck onto the side of a cylinder. That's pretty difficult right there. I don't know if this is necessarily accurate, but ultimately the goal is to make it feel and look as if it's accurate. I have had some people that have actually used a reference, and I've critiqued it in the past, and they tell me, no, that's actually what the reference actually looks like, and they show me the reference. And sometimes reality is it defies what you would think it would look like. I would recommend that if you run into a situation like that and it doesn't look good, try to romanticize the image a little bit. Try to make reality look more flattering than it really is. But let me go ahead and show you some examples of of this exercise and what it can kind of do for you over time. If you keep practicing things like this, and it's not necessarily just a smiley face. Like, let me show examples. Just let me show examples, and it'll make more sense. So let's start with this Star Wars image here, okay? Now the Star Destroyer, let's use this as an example, okay? So the dimension, the shape and form of this Star Destroyer, you know, if you look at the back end of this, of a Star Destroyer, if you look at the beginning of A New Hope, the back end of a Star Destroyer is shaped kind of like this, okay? And so it has like all these engines in the back, and you know, it's got its little stair stepping that goes on all through here, and it, you know, continues and does the exact same thing on the other side. And you know, then it has the thing that pokes up right there, and then you have another thingamajig on the top. Okay, so that is basically the shape, okay? And you need to keep that shape throughout the entire length of the object. And in this case, it's the Star Destroyer, the entire body of the Star Destroyer. So that shape, like this shape that I've gone ahead and illustrated up here, is right here, okay? So we have a shape that goes down here, then we have another shape that goes down. There's this little gap that goes down. And let me just draw a line going straight down from the center there. And so this would be about the approximate shape of this, you know, the shape of the Star Destroyer here, okay? And I am continuing that exact same shape all the way down from this point right here all the way down to this point right here, okay? Now, for those of you that have not been following my channel, the reason why this Star Destroyer is curved is because it's not actually curved. This is a panoramic image. I drew a panoramic image, okay? So I had to keep in mind this shape right here with everything that I drew on it, okay? I mean, this stuff right all through here, okay? It's all resting on top of it. So the bottom portion of all of this stuff has to, like the bottom stuff right around this area, it all has to match. This all needs to match here in green this stuff right here, okay? But it's not just that. You know, this right here, this right here, this right here, you know, this coming on through here, like every last little bit of Aztecing that I did, I had to keep that in mind, because on the other side it's going at a different angle, because this line right here is different than this line right here. You know, it's a different angle going on, and so I'm thinking about the shape and form. And you know, this harkens back to, you know, that cylinder idea, where you have a cylinder that's kind of sticking out, foreshortened, like pointed towards you, and drawing a smiley face on the side of it, as if it's wrapping around the side of that cylinder, okay? You have to constantly be thinking about that, because like I did that exact same thing right here on the Millennium Falcon. You know, the shape and form of it is going like that throughout the entire thing, and then it changes direction, and then it starts doing that. See? And then, you know, there's this, you know, the whole Star Destroyer here. You know, I've got all of this Aztecing that's going on throughout here, and all of that is conforming to the roundness of the Death Star right there, okay? And then, you know, within this region right here, you know, there's that little dish, okay? Basically, it's got a center, and then, you know, it's got a whole bunch of lines radiating out from it. And so I need to make sure that the shape and form of it doesn't just kind of, like, I don't want it to look like it's flat, so I need to make sure that it always stays uniform, so that it feels like there's a recessed dome in the Death Star. And so, you know, you just thinking about that helps out quite a bit. How would I draw a smiley face on this? It wouldn't be really too much different, I don't think. Yeah, okay, so that would be a smiley face resting on that little area right there. Okay, maybe that's what it would look like. I don't know. Ultimately, it's what makes it look the best. Like, it all depends on just how big the smiley face is. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I think this is more like it right here. I mean, it seems like a really stupid exercise, but like just experimenting with it from time to time until you get better and better at understanding the shape and form of an object is pretty key. Now, inside of perspective, this, like for newbies, perspective is really difficult because, you know, the shape and form, you know, it has to deal with, like, you actually have to understand shape and form in order to understand that these two faces here and here, that they actually change shape here. Okay, so that would be the shape and form of all that. And then, you know, of course, this right here, it's kind of domed a little bit, but yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Alright, so this is a good example right here, okay? So all throughout this serpent's body that's just wrapping around here. I really like that, how I pulled this off. I have all of this stuff going on through here where, well, let's use purple. I have all of these glowing things going on through here, and it's all wrapping around, and it helps create the illusion of just how round this serpent is. And, you know, I tried to make sure that it was just right. Now, of course, it's not a smiley face, but, you know, it's the same sort of concept. Like if I were to draw a smiley face right here, okay, that would possibly be what it would look like. And then here, you know, that sort of thing. And then here, I think I did that wrong. Let me do the eyeballs differently. They need to slant more. And there's a lot more foreshortening on this one than this one. But this one has a lot more foreshortening than this one. Okay, and so it changes what it looks like. It's not just foreshortening going in this direction. Okay, it's foreshortening that's occurring within this region right here. Okay, it's foreshortening that's occurring within this region right here as well. Okay, and you know, yeah. So you get the point. And understanding shape and form. Like if I were to draw out some shape and form that goes on here, just as if it was some sort of grid or something, I would imagine that the shape and form of this would be something kind of like that. And let's just keep continuing on with it. And then going the other direction, it would be something like that. Okay, so you're trying to think of it as a three-dimensional sculptural sort of object. Like I'm keeping things like that in mind for like this whole swooping action that's going on here as well. Like if I were to kind of draw out a similar sort of grid going on as if this was a three-dimensional object and trying to perceive this as if it were just as if it was more than just a shape but a form. Like we can kind of draw out this little grid going on here. And so that would be somewhat of the understanding the shape and form of this little plate in the mouse's armor. Okay? And if we were to continue some of these lines, like say this line, if we were to continue it on, it would probably continue on something kind of like that and that. And maybe, and all throughout the time when I was drawing this image, I was actually picturing as if there was a grid here. I personally remember that I did not actually have these little grid marks. I did not actually have them drawn out on the canvas. I did not. But if I needed them, then I would have drawn them. But I just simply didn't. So like you can actually see that there is roundness to these objects, and that is the goal when you are drawing them, to make sure that you are communicating that things have an actual shape to them, that these objects are sculptural, that they're not just flat. And if you have a problem with accidentally making objects look like they're flat, then you know you need to start kind of trying out some exercises, kind of like what I'm doing right here. Okay, so this right here is a good example of shape and form, and me trying to communicate why some people's images wind up looking like they're flat, like a flat object, and why my images resemble, at least, I mean, my images look cartoonish to some extent, but my images also more so resemble a photograph when compared to a newbie's artwork. This is why a lot of people's images look flat, and why my images wind up looking round and actually having a three-dimensional forms to them. Okay, so let's move on here. Okay, so the Star Trek Next Generation image here. Okay, so right here I have kind of this little, let me find a color that will kind of stand out here. Okay, so right around here there is a dome that's going on here, so like a three-dimensional sort of dome. And so throughout the entire time I think I actually drew out something like this in the initial sketch, okay? And then it flattens out, and then it goes flat along the front edge, okay? So, you know, I was thinking in those terms throughout the entire time that I was drawing that saucer section, and that saucer section took forever to draw, alright? So that's pretty much all there is to this image, really. But yeah, hopefully this image is informative. Try this exercise right here, okay? And when you feel like you're done with this exercise, go ahead and make it an even more dramatic form of foreshortening, and you know, draw a logo that's on the side of it, on the side of the cylinder, like a really elaborate logo, and try to make it look right. Now, of course, you know, with something like Photoshop and Affinity Photo, you could just kind of, you know, mesh warp it, or you could just kind of liquefy it and such like that. But, you know, drawing it is also a nice big step as well. Being able to understand why you draw it like that to begin with. That's pretty helpful. Anyways, guys, I hope this video has been helpful to you. If you guys would like to participate with my community more, feel free to join my Discord. There's a link to my Discord in the video description below. If you'd like to support this channel, there's an image of my mascot in the upper right corner of the screen. It leads to my Patreon. Any support would be much appreciated. And if you've enjoyed this content and would like to see more, feel free to click on anything else that's appearing on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.